Hey everyone, this is Bailey from the EMH, and I want to thank you for joining me for cracking the code, the search for the perfect cryptocurrency. This is my journey through basic algebra that actually led me to discover the most powerful asset in all of crypto. All right, I'm going to share that journey with you today. All right, so first we begin with the idea of a liquidity pool. All right, and so Uniswap created these liquidity pools that really make decentralized finance possible. All right, and May of 2020, they released that Uniswap version 2. And we're going to see that that's one of the pools that we're really going to be diving into, pun intended, to kind of check out all the mathematics of what makes decentralized finance tick. All right. And the two big formulas, guys, that we're going to be going over today, that's really going to lead us to a better understanding of how these values and these prices occur, something called a constant product formula. All right. And that's this X times Y equals K. All right. It's going to create a price curve. And you're going to notice that all the different combinations of tokens are going to lie on that price curve. All right. And what really got me interested in this concept is prices can go from 0 to infinity. All right. The minute I saw infinity, I was like, what? Like, that is insane. We're going to see today how there can be potentially parabolic, crazy price appreciation that could reach levels that are just unbelievably high. All right. So how does that happen? How is that possible? All right. So through this constant product formula, and then also there's these price oracle or the price equation where you can get the price by dividing one asset by the other asset. All right. And that's going to basically kind of govern how the liquidity pools manage these assets and the prices attached to them. All right. So there's some interesting stuff here, guys, that we're going to be kind of diving into. All right. But first, what I want to really break down for you guys is this idea of the parabola. All right. So this is kind of a basic algebra function that I've always found fascinating. And when I learned that prices could potentially form in this pattern here, I really started to dive in and kind of investigate it. All right. And the whole idea, guys, behind this parabolic parabola or potential price appreciation that could form this way, what you want to notice is as you increase your X value, which is your input, you're going to notice that the Y value or your output increases more rapidly. All right. So it's not linear growth. And you're going to notice, guys, there's some really cool patterns to it. Like you're going to see that we're adding the next odd value every single time. And what's really cool, guys, is if you take a look at the multiplicative growth, you'll see these numbers called perfect squares, 4, 9, 16, 25. But the whole idea behind it is we're going to see that as we increase by the same amount, our values are multiplying by times 4. And then if we increase by the same amount again, we have a times 9 multiplier, a times 16, a times 25. And our values can get very, very big for the same amount of input. All right. So that's kind of like this really crazy idea that potentially crypto could follow this same pattern. All right. I'm intrigued. All right. So I played around with it and, I stuck a number in front of our parabola. All right. Sometimes we have this thing called a coefficient. All right. Does that affect the pattern at all? Well, if I have a fraction like 1/10, it will decrease the overall value of our outputs. But you're going to notice that it's the same kind of pattern that develops, that every time we increase one on the input, we're increasing more each time on the output. All right. And then this multiplicative pattern of how our output is growing stays consistent, even if we have this number here in front of our parabola. All right. So that's kind of like this really crazy idea that potentially crypto could follow this same pattern. All right. I'm intrigued. All right. So I played around with it and, I stuck a number in front of our parabola. All right. Sometimes we have this thing called a coefficient. All right. Does that affect the pattern at all? Well, if I have a fraction like 1/10, it will decrease the overall value of our outputs. But you're going to notice that it's the same kind of pattern that develops, that every time we increase one on the input, we're increasing more each time on the output. All right. And then this multiplicative pattern of how our output is growing stays consistent, even if we have this number here in front of our parabola. All right. Then what I decided to do, guys, was to kind of dive in and to say, all right, let's say if our inputs are not counting by one or going up by one, but maybe a different value. All right. And here I increased them by a factor of 10. All right. So if we count by tens, all right, is this pattern staying true? Yes, it is. Okay. So you're going to see that there's the same multiplicative growth, even if we are increasing the input by larger amounts. Okay. All right. So then I was like, all right, well, what if we just kind of change the amounts that we're putting in, and here now we're increasing by 5 each time. All right. Okay, increase by 5 each time. We put these numbers into our formula, all right, and we're going to notice that those outputs still create that parabolic price appreciation or outputs that we're seeing develop in all these other patterns, and then I decided, hey, let's change the coefficient, and let's change how we're increasing our inputs. And notice, guys, that we still have that same multiplicative growth occurring in our output. All right. So that kind of led me to believe, when you hear about this parabolic price appreciation, like, could these cryptocurrencies like really follow this same pattern? All right. Because we're putting in like a steady amount for our X number. All right. So picture that as capital into a liquidity pool, add the same amount each time. And then this output, which could potentially be a price, could that just keep going up and up and up more and more every time? So I was like, let's explore this, okay? Because this seems a little crazy to me. All right. So basically, if we look at some basic algebra, we're able to actually manipulate the two formulas, and we can solve our equation here, all right, for y, and then we do something called substitution. So we put that right in here, and we're going to be able to see through a series of algebraic properties that the price equation theoretically does form this parabola. All right. And we'll have a big fraction in front of our x squared. And that k is going to be that value of that constant in the constant product formula. All right. Hey, what would that look like? All right. So if we were to decide to put our inputs in there, notice, guys, how the value of the outputs would kind of be the same. It'd be 1 divided by k, 4 divided by k, 9 divided by whatever that k value was. And it still forms that parabolic multiplicative growth by those perfect square factors. All right. So pretty crazy stuff if you think about it. Like, in theory, our values, we could put a steady amount in, and this thing just keeps growing and growing and growing at a faster and faster rate. So does that play out in reality? Let's check it out. All right. So I'm searching for this perfect token. All right. Can we actually get to this price appreciation of infinity, approaching affinity? So I was like, wow, that's crazy. So where am I going to begin my search? Hey, PancakeSwap, right? On the Binance Smart Chain. It is now the most popular site. It has the most daily users. So, hey, if you're searching for this perfect token, this needle in the haystack, why not start here? And why not pick, hey, the most popular token on here? All right. So we're going to take a look at how the price appreciation works for a token that many people might know about, and that's the cake token. All right. So let's check it out. Let's see if we can figure this out. All right. So going into PancakeSwap, all right, the automated market maker, if we look it up, boom. All right. Uniswap version 2. Okay. So they're using those same mathematical formulas that we talked about with the Uniswap version 2 earlier. All right. So, hey, we could potentially hit that price appreciation of infinity. All right. Let's check it out. All right. Let's see if we can do it. All right, so guys, just to bring you back to that constant product formula, all right? So a couple things to know before we dive in, all right? So when you have a liquidity pool, all right, the value of that K, all right, that constant is fixed. All right, so we have just X times Y equals K. All right. Another thing, guys, that is really important to remember is that the liquidity is always equal between the two assets. All right. So whatever the amount of BUSD is, the cake pooled is worth that same amount. All right. And that equilibrium there allows us to just divide those two values, and we'll be able to get kind of like that price per cake, or BUSD per cake. Okay. But that's an important thing, that liquidity is always 50-50 between both assets. So you're always going to see that. Okay. Now the price can go up and down because people are constantly like buying and selling and buying and selling. And we're going to be seeing that that's going to be moving our location around on our constant product formula. And I'm going to bring that up visually for you guys next. Okay. So this is what a constant product formula curve is going to look like. All right. And what we have is we have our number of BUSD from our liquidity pool times the number of cake tokens in that liquidity pool. All right. And that comes out to be this big number. That's our K number. All right. And that number just stays fixed, constant. It allows us to create this curve, or this graph of this formula right here. X times Y equals that K value. Okay. And what's interesting, guys, about this graph is that every single location on this graph, or every point, is a combination of cake tokens and BUSD tokens. Okay, so if we look at our deck screener right here, all right, we have our cake, the pool of cake and our pooled BUSD. Okay, and that's going to be a location and XY value. All right, and it's going to bring us right here. And then we can just do that price equation where we divide one asset by the other. All right, and this is going to be BUSD per cake. And you're going to see it's about $3.99 when I took this screenshot. Okay, and you can see that right here on the price from Deck Screener. Okay, so that's how those prices work out. Okay. Now, what's interesting, guys, what we can do is we can simulate some transactions. Okay, so say if we decide to purchase some cake tokens, all right, and I'm going to bring the value of BUSD up to $10 million in here. Okay, so I'm going to increase it. And what happens is, as the price or the value of BUSD goes up, we have taken cake tokens out. All right, and I'm going to be able to figure out how many cake tokens by finding this location on our constant product formula curve. All right, and then when we do that, we can then divide, and we're going to notice that we have a much higher price for each cake token. All right, and each cake token would be about $10.45 if we brought the total of BUSD in the liquidity pool up to $10 million, right? And that was a value that I just picked so I can kind of see the price appreciation there. And you can see that the quantity of tokens decreases, okay? All right, and now say if we do that again, all right? So now we brought our total up to 10 million. What if we go to 20 million? So we inject $10 million into the liquidity pool, and we remove and buy more cake tokens. Okay, so what's going to happen is we'll have 20 million, we'll find our value, and it turns out now, whew, all right, we're rocking that the cake token is now about $41.80 per token. All right. And what's really cool about this, guys, is that the amount of capital in the pool is increasing and the cake token is decreasing. All right, so that creates this really rapid price appreciation because our numerator is going up and our denominator is going down, and both of those affect the price, and it increases it dramatically. All right, and guys, say if we do this one more time, all right, so say if we put in another $10 million, or another $10 million of BUSD goes in. We buy more cake tokens. All right. Now we don't get as much cake tokens out because they're more expensive. All right. However, what we do notice is that the price then increases to $94, a little more than $94 per cake token. All right. And what's interesting here, guys, is, so we added 10 million here, and then we added 10 million here. And what you're going to notice for that same constant amount of capital, the price is going to accelerate even more. Okay, so it looks like it's similar to that parabola that we were studying. Okay, and if we take a look at it, what I did was just kind of like outline the rate of change. So if we go to that figure where we had that 1045 per cake, and then we added 10 million BUSD, and that brought us down to that 4180. All right. And that's actually a ×4 in the price. All right. So it increased by a factor of 4. All right. And then we added another 10 million BUSD, bringing the total distance to 20 million from here to here. And we noticed that from 1045, multiply that by 9, and then you get that $94 again. All right. And then if we add another 10 million, so that same amount, bringing it up to 30 million, okay, we're up to $167 per cake token. People are freaking out right now, right? Because a lot of people have cake. But that from this value here to this value here is now a ×16, okay? So we went ×4, and then instead of like a ×8, it's not linear, all right? We added more, it's a ×9, all right? And then instead of like a ×12 being linear, we're now at a ×16, okay? So pretty amazing stuff, guys, okay? So I was like, hey, like this is unbelievable, right? All right, so what I did was, all right, as I continued that, I created a data table, all right, to just organize these numbers. And I plotted it, and I was like, hey, is this really like a parabola? All right, is this price appreciation, follow those formulas that I showed at the beginning? And so I asked the graphing calculator to fit a parabola to see if it could do it, and it actually fits perfectly. All right, so it does indeed, the price of this liquidity pool and the price of cake follows a parabolic price equation. All right, and it turns out that it is actually this 1/k times x squared. Okay, now this is a little bit off because we've rounded the numbers, but it is actually very, very close. So it's approximately that value. So hey, all right, crypto, little basic algebra equation, parabolic price appreciation, like what's up? We're all going to get wealthy, right? All right. Well, let's take a look at this underlying math, okay? So here's a little bit of, the bad news here is that what we're going to notice is a token like Cake has multiple different liquidity pools, and it's a popular token. And a part of Uniswap's original vision was that there's going to be some arbitrage that will steady the price and will correct and establish a market price. So if the value of a token is too high in one liquidity pool, someone would be able to profit from that and be able to sell, take and sell that asset into that liquidity pool, lowering the price and profiting somewhere else. And they can level the price of Cake throughout all the liquidity pools, in the market. All right. And that was one of the things that is going to kind of prevent this really high price appreciation from occurring, is that arbitrage can occur and bring down the price and bring up the prices in some of the other pools that might be lagging behind. All right. And if we notice, guys, what I did was, so I graphed this price appreciation. This is going to be this price curve for this liquidity pool. And what we notice is the 1 year low price and the 1 year high price, and here's our current price of cake. You're going to notice that it's kind of confined to just this beginning of the parabola. All right. And never really like takes off like too much. All right. And another thing, guys, that's really interesting about the constant product formula is you're going to see that like most of the liquidity pools are going to be confined to just a certain little area of the constant product formula curve. All right. And it actually kind of tells you that like even with a lot of like these big ones, even like stable coins, the price never really fluctuates. So it really doesn't use very much of the curve at all. It stays concentrated in this one little spot. Okay. And we can see here that, like the rapid price appreciation would occur if we could travel down here, but that generally never really happens. Okay. And the one major thing to keep in mind, guys, is because, some tokens don't have multiple liquidity pools where arbitrage can occur. But the big thing is human greed, right? So if price gets too high, people will sell. Okay. So that's always, you have to take that into consideration. Okay. So are we ever going to have this situation where we could put more and more and more value in and just really start taking advantage of that accelerated growth? Well, people would sell their tokens and then bring the price back down. All right. So like, is it just a pipe dream? Like, can we actually get this token that could increase and increase super rapidly? Or are people just going to sell it and the price would go down and they'd scoop up the profits, So, thinking about that perfect token, there's some flaws to it. All right. So going back, prices between 0 and infinity, can we get to that infinity? Well, the cake token, that's not going to do it for us, unfortunately. Okay. And, one of the big things, guys, is that human greed. Okay. It's very, very hard to get down that constant product formula curve and really experience that accelerated growth in the price appreciation. I mean, it would be awesome if we could do it, because putting in just the same amount of capital each time and the value just grows more and more at accelerated rate, like that would be such a wonderful scenario for all of us. All right. Is it possible? All right. So here it is, guys. Can we find this perfect token? All right. Can we have this kind of like parabolic price appreciation that doesn't stop? It just keeps going. All right. And it's immune to, that human greed element. All right. All right. Well, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. This is what we would need. Okay. We would need a massive protocol owned, which means people can't take it out and diminish the liquidity. All right. A protocol owned locked liquidity that's not going anywhere, that builds and builds with each transaction. All right. So that hardens the price floor. So if, you go up and up that parabola, but then when people start to sell, you don't slide back as much. Okay, so you're always kind of creeping up and making progress up that constant product formula curve. So that would be a great thing to have. Hey, an innovative smart contract. Okay, so not a person, but we have a smart contract unaffected by human emotions. All right, that is constantly buying the token, locking it away. All right, keeping it out of the liquidity pools. All right, the price gets super high, it does not matter. It will buy yet again. All right, and it will buy again, and it will just keep inching up and then pushing up that price more and more and more. All right, we would need that. Okay, a use case. All right, that will always be valued by the community and in demand. All right. nowadays, guys, every single token, think what's the utility? What is the use case? Okay. And like we said about with the locked liquidity, all right, and building that liquidity, that token that is going to increase more rapidly when bought, but then when you sell it, it doesn't slide down as much on that constant product formula curve. Like if we could do that, then it's possible to test the limits, all right, of this constant product formula, the parabola, and could we theoretically get sky high price appreciation? All right, could we find this? Well, I will tell you this, guys. It was not the cake token. All right. However, I did find it on PancakeSwap, and it was on the Binance Smart Chain. All right. And it is a protocol that's actually called Elephant.Money, and it's their elephant token. All right. It was the #1 performing digital asset in all of 2022. It outperformed 100% of the top 100 crypto assets. And it is right now on the precipice of absolute explosion. It is getting to that point where we're going to start to see those price appreciations of the multiplicative ×4 and then ×9, and then we're going to start to snowball from there. Check out the system because it is an unbelievable economic engine. It's a masterpiece of tokenomics and ingenuity, and it is something that you want to really delve into. All right, there's a plethora of resources out there on this protocol. Check them out, but you know, it's really innovative, and it's definitely something that you want to pay attention to. All right, you're going to be hearing about it very, very shortly. Okay. So, guys, I hope you learned a little bit about just how a liquidity pool works, some of the challenges behind what the tokens face, and then if there are clever kind of schemes and tokenomics in place, you could really actually leverage the power of some of these basic math formulas to create amazing, amazing systems. All right. So very, very cool. I love how math can be useful. All right. My kids in school are always like, hey, you know, like, where am I going to use this stuff? And I'm like, hey, check it out. This is a super, super cool application for it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much. All right. This is Bailey from the EMH. I'm out.